Happy New Year! Countdown. That's right, it's time once again to do the countdown of the best and worst Transformers that I added to my collection throughout 2019 in the latest GotBot Counts Down. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you're at it, that's right, man, hit that notification bell because it lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Checkout machinery of man, the Everything Factor, Transformers Collectors, NL, the Autobot family, and have a look for me everywhere across social media. And yes, just like last year, we are in a location that's not very typical of where we do these sort of things. But it gives me an opportunity to kind of lay everything off to the side here that we're going to be using for this particular countdown. And I think I said last year that, you know what, I really would like to get back into doing some more countdowns. That didn't happen through 2019. Oh well, such is life. But we are in the festive season, and it's not quite New Year's yet. Though. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. We're going to leave that on for a little while, but I can't leave that on. I can't. Yeah, maybe I can. Maybe I can leave it out for a little bit. We'll see. We'll see how we go here. I don't know. I'm in a good mood. We're in the festive season. Actually, truth be known, we are not quite at Christmas yet. Not as of this recording. But I do have everything that I'm going to get for this year. Well, no, not quite, but I have everything I'm going to need to do my top 10 best and worst. So, kind of like we did last year, we're going to count down the 10 best first, and we're going to do the 10 worst after, just because the 10 worst tends to be more interesting. Now, a couple of disclaimers here. First, your list is probably different than my list, because this is specific to items that were either added to my collection or at least that I looked at here on the channel throughout 2019. They are items that were released this year, and they kind of start off from Siege Wave 2 up to the end of Siege, and some Studio Series, a couple of exclusive things. We'll see how it goes. There may even be one thing in here that's slightly older. So I can't necessarily say it's stuff that was released in 2019. It's stuff I got in 2019. But it's still all pretty recent. And we'll do the best first. I'm going to go from 10 down to 1. Like I said, it's subjective. And it's based on my particular experiences with these iterations of these characters. Same with the worst. And there will undoubtedly be some surprises along the way. Ones that I have on my best list that you would probably put on your worst list, and vice versa. So without any further ado, enough of me babbling on, let's jump into it with number 10 first. And as we are starting with the best first, number 10 is going to be Siege Soundwave, or Sound Blaster if you didn't get Soundwave. Either way, it's this mold. This is a fantastic mold. It's robust. It does have a bit of a wonky official alt mode, being that space cruiser thing, but you can pull off the boombox mode. It's a fan mode. You can pull off the lamppost mode, which is kind of a hidden official mode. The articulation is second to none. The coloration is fantastic. Even the battle damage wasn't too bad on it, except on the chest, which I personally dealt with. It's up to you if you want to deal with it or not. But undeniably, this is a quintessential Soundwave, and that's why he takes the number 10 spot. What about number 9 for best of the year? Now I know what you're thinking. Starscream at number 9 for best of the year? That's controversial because that chest plate keeps popping off. Some people have even complained that the null rays don't stay in his arms very well. Look, I love this mold. I didn't think I was going to. Here's why he's number 9. I was going to originally skip this, and I picked it up with very low expectations, and the articulation is astonishingly good. The representation of the character is spot on. The conversion makes logical sense. It's involved without being overly complicated. The tolerances on all of mine, and I've said this before every time I've looked at this mold, the tolerances on mine are all pretty much the same. Maybe with the Rainmakers there might be 1 or 2 null rays that are slightly loose, but that's it. This is fantastic. And as for the chest, stays fine on mine. Or either they all stay on fine or they all tend to pop off. Like, it's uniform. Starscream is no better or worse than any of them, and it's a fantastic Starscream. Enough that I think I prefer this over the impending Earthrise version. And for that reason, this guy takes number 9. Number 8 is probably another controversial one because it is Siege Springer, and a lot of people have issues with this guy. Notably, his knees. Some people have said that they break, or when you try and bend them, this happens. Some people have noted that there's a certain stopping point to his arm rotation, and I agree with that, but the conversion is involved. There's a huge parts count on this guy. He has ankle tilt. Here's the thing. The Generations Springer, fantastic. The Siege Springer, fantastic. Springer is so lucky to have a couple of official iterations, not to mention several unofficial iterations, that are fantastic across the board. And I did not like the battle damage on him, so I did remove it from the chest. I did paint over with a saffron yellow, but in terms of functionality and an interesting conversion, this guy is pretty excellent, and for that reason he takes number 8 on this year's list of the best. Number 7 is my custom Violin Jiger. But truth be known, it is the Studio Series 13 or 31 Megatron. A lot of people say, he has a hollow body. I don't like that. And I hear you, man. I do. But in terms of articulation, you can score so many amazing dynamic poses with this guy. It's a pretty good conversion. The back pieces, yeah, they might pop off, but he has such a stature and presence. And it captures the character of Megatron so tremendously well. I think that SS31 does it better. That being said, it also captures Shockwave very well. And when you paint it up and do the work on it, it becomes a pretty dandy Violin Jiger as well. Number 6 is my lad, Brunt. I had, again, low expectations for the weaponizers, and Brunt is amazing. I love the alt mode. I love the colors. I love it for him. I love it for Zetar. I believe he was 10s across the board. I think Zetar was 10s across the board. I think it is the absolute best of the weaponizers. But, of course, that's just me. Number 5 is going to be another controversial one because it's Ironhide. Now, I mean, you could use the Crosshairs version. You could use the Ratchet version. It's basically this mold. I'm using Ironhide. Now, a lot of people are going to say, best of the year. No, GotBot. But his leg panels, they fall off. Mine don't. Mine don't. At all. Not even a little bit do they fall off. So I consider myself lucky because I know that's not the going norm. And I know for a lot of people, Ironhide specifically will probably be on their worst list because of that. But it didn't happen with mine, and I love this mold enough that I have it 3 times, basically, even though there's a lot of remolding on Ratchet. But basically I have it 3 times, and I'm delighted to have it 3 times. And clocking in at number 4, unapologetically, is the fantastic and eye-catching Spinister. I love how this turned out. I think it is an amazing update to the original G1 iteration of the character. It would be nice if Singe and Hair Splitter automatically were released with this guy, but at least you can add them on if you are so inclined. In terms of being a true to character representation, this catches all of the aspects. In terms of functionality, the articulation is astonishing and the conversion is interesting and unique without being overly complicated. Though, admittedly, as I said in the review, one of these panels on the back of the leg might be a slight nuisance, but nothing that ruins this guy, and that's why he takes number 4. Number 3 is not exactly Countdown, but it is the Titan class Omega Supreme. Fantastic representation of that Titan. Again, it does lend itself to kind of third-party add-ons, especially for the tracks, and they do exist, I think, through Non-F Productions. There are a couple of toy hack sets, one for Omega itself. Most notably, the red chest is the most probably important of the stickers there. There's another set that turns the like rocket arms into the rocket base that Countdown is known to kind of control, command, whatever. I don't have that Titan because it was on loan to me by a good friend of the channel, Cyril, so I'm representing it with this little lad. But the Titan class Omega Supreme is, it worked out really well. All of the ratchets feel good. The conversion is very true to Omega Supreme, while at the same time being unique in terms of the way the arms are done. I love it. So solid, so robust, all the joints feel good, excellent ankle tilt, can score so many poses. I mean, I've done the review, I compared him to Wei Jiang's Ultima Guard. It is arguably one that some people might say, hey, it's a little too late, but if you were holding out and waiting for him to be your representation of Omega Supreme, you absolutely win. He comes in the number 3 spot. What about number 2? If this year's Titan is in the number 3 spot for fantastic representation of a character for the year in our countdown, then I think that it's only fitting that our first Commander class offering gets the number 2 spot. This, of course, is Siege, Jetfire, Skyfire, whatever you want to call them. And I was going to skip this. I was just going to keep the Thrilling 30 version, which I adore. I still think that's an excellent Jetfire. But I went in on this guy because I got him at a significantly good deal. I believe he retailed in the United States for $79.99 and in Canada for $119.99. But I got this guy for $76.99 Canadian plus tax. But like, I got him for the price, for less than the price that he is American. I couldn't pass it up. And when I got him, I had kind of low expectations. But the more that I messed with this guy, the more I said, this is amazing, astonishingly well done. The coloration, the paint apps, the articulation, the even the way that you have the like fingers able to open and close, but when they close you have the little 5mm section that comes out to put the peg in, like that little hole comes out from the palm of his hand. All of his extra accessories, an interesting conversion. Now that being said, while he's number 2 for me, I also know that there are people who in one mode or another have had issues. Issues such as his chest panels like to not stay tabbed in, or they take the arm out to the side and it comes untabbed, or the ankles are scary tight. I get it. This guy's had a tremendous amount of QC variants, but in my personal experience with the mold, I have to say that he is easily the number 2 spot. So who is number 1 for best of the year? Perhaps surprisingly to many, it is going to be Siege Impactor, even though he has himself hollow legs. Why? Because of what he represented, because of what he did for me earlier the year. It is like an excellent offering of a character that I was not invested in. I knew virtually nothing about, but I was at a crossroads. I was at a point in the fandom and in collecting where I was feeling very discouraged, disgruntled, and somewhat despondent. And I actually considered kind of just throwing it down and walking away from collecting altogether. I was really troubled with a lot of things that I was seeing. And then I picked this guy up, and he kind of rekindled my passion because he was so interesting. There was so much to discover with this guy. And because of the impact that he had on me in rekindling my passion that was being kind of beaten down by a number of things, I have to say a big thank you to him. He's the reason that I continued collecting. He's the reason that going into the year 2020, I'm looking forward to a lot of the new things coming up for you and I. So, for that reason, Impactor has to be number 1 best offering of 2019. Ah, so now you've noticed that I've removed my festive hat, and I've even turned off the lights, though I'm still wearing this because it's still festive. Because it's time for us to move on to the 10 worst that I added to my collection in 2019. To be fair, not all of these are particularly bad. In fact, most of them are pretty good, but they are definitely the weakest ones that I added to my collection this past year. Again, this is open for debate. Your list is going to be different than mine, man, and that's cool because it's all based on your experience with your molds, just like this is based on my experience with the molds that I have myself personally. So number 10 for the worst of 2019 is going to definitely be a surprise to people because he's definitely on a lot of people's top 10 lists, and that's going to be Siege Prowl. Now, to be fair, this isn't really my Prowl. This is, I guess, technically on loan at the moment, and it's not even that Prowl is not good. I'm just not a fan of the alt mode. I'm not a fan of the alt mode. If you're in for the alt mode, then you win. And I feel like I don't like the sea of black that makes up the kind of middle of his body. To be fair, though, I do believe that Blue Streak, who we still have to look at here on the channel, wears this even better. And I do believe that Barricade wears it tremendously well, especially with that eye-popping purple. So, but while I think there's variation in the coloring, and that's what really makes me like or dislike this mold, I will say this. If you have Blue Streak, you owe it to yourself to have the entire trio in this mold, being Prowl and Smokescreen. If you have Smokescreen, again, you should get Blue Streak and this guy. Me personally, I'm keeping the classics representations of those characters because I prefer them. But I don't know, I didn't like this as much as a lot of other people liked it, and for that reason, he's going to take number 10. Not because he's bad, but just because he didn't really interest me that much. What about number 9? Number 9 is going to be big powered. I am very, very happy, and this guy looks gorgeous, by the way. I'm very, very happy to add Die Atlas and his lads to my collection. But fresh out of package, this guy's loose. His arms are quite loose, and they have a limited range of articulation. I mean, that's as far out as it's going. That's as far out as it's going. I feel like the shoulders should have been handled better. The 2 deluxes, both of them needed fixes. What was it? The hips of one needed to be fixed because the legs pretty much fell off. And I feel like maybe slightly the waist of the other one. You know what? These came out as Takara exclusives. I'm not a fan of Takara. I don't find they make a great product, so I'm not really surprised that this is flimsy, loosey-goosey. I didn't really expect any better of them. And for that reason, for as gorgeous as this guy is, and as happy as I am to have him, and as much as I think any fan owes it to themselves to have a version of Die Atlas, this guy still has to take number 9 for worst of the year. What about number 8? Number 8 is going to be Siege Ravage. Look, I think it's a cute idea. I do think he makes a believable cassette. When you put him in his little cat mode, he has some pretty big hind legs, or at least the upper part of his hind legs. He has very small little paws. Somebody said recently that they would have liked to have seen the classics Ravage downsized. I agree. The classics Ravage downsized to be a little, like, one of these Micromasters, I think would have worked fantastically well. What we got is fine, but we've gotten better Ravages, and for that reason, I had to put him on the worst list. But he's not the only one of the Siege cassettes on it. No, we also have Siege Ratbat. Now, again, I'm very happy to add Ratbat to my collection, and I love the purple and black, and even the kind of gold and silver highlights that are on him. But, you know, you stand the guy up, the head barely moves. If he's flying like he's looking down at the ground, it's definitely not the most functional of things. It's a nice attempt, I get it. And honestly, it's better than that terrible Fall of Cybertron data disc thing that we had. And I don't really know if they could have done any better. Probably not, to be honest with you. I'm glad to have him, but when we put this guy in his cassette mode, he doesn't really look too much like a cassette. It looks like a broken cassette. And for that reason, he too makes the worst list for the year. Number 6, if you've been counting down, you know we're at number 6. And number 6 is actually a character that I like. It is Slamdance, but he has to make the list because when I do the conversion on this guy, he does not, his lower body, the tank, Grand Slam, does not like to tab in. It's even worse than it was with Skytread, or flywheels, if you will. The tank, the shin pieces don't like to tab in at all. I did have to loosen screws at the ankles so that they wouldn't break. A lot of people have had them break. A lot of people have had the knee crumble. There's a lot of issues with this guy that never should be, especially for something that's an exclusive. It never should be. It's very poor QC, and it's all with the lower body. I don't know if there's something wrong with the red plastic they use, but for that reason, the guy cannot escape the void that is the worst offerings of the year. And we're middle of the road at number 5, and this is one that a lot of people still don't even have yet. It is the Siege Apeface. And, like, don't get me wrong, I'm glad to have Apeface, especially considering the last offering we had was that little tiny Titan Master. We should have always had a bigger, better Apeface. And I do like the robot mode, although a lot of people have complained about the white plastic that's used. I don't mind it, to be honest with you. I think it's okay, man. I'm cool with it. I also don't mind the clear plastic that was used for his shield piece. I'm cool with it. A lot of people have complained about that. But I cannot pretend that the conversion is anything but a absolute nightmare and a mess. It is. It's almost like you do the conversion and like he's arguing with you like, no, I don't want to be converted. I don't want to be a plane. Although he does pull off the plane better than the gorilla mode. There is a particular hinge with the head here. It's this hinge here, and it's not good. It wasn't designed well. It doesn't like to tab in the way it's supposed to be done. There was a simpler way to handle that hinge for the head, and had they done that, this guy might have made it to the best list. But as it is, because of, I'm going to say, weaknesses of engineering, the guy is about the halfway mark of the worst for the year. So I was lucky enough to get the Bumblebee movie like cassette pack. The one that in the US was a Target exclusive, and I don't know if it even got released outside of the US. But thanks to a good friend of the channel, Event Progenitor, I managed to kind of secure those cassettes, which I wanted because I wanted that blue Rumble Frenzy. Howlback was, you know, it was nice, as was getting the Buzzsaw, because I was able to turn the original Combiner Wars Buzzsaw into Garboil. But it came with this one step B. It's trash. This is not worth the plastic that was used to make it. Just saying. You can even hear that. Like it's not even like this ridiculous section that's his like hood and roof. It's not even like it tabs in anywhere. It's just there and ugly. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. And number 3 for worst offering of the year has to go to Siege Chromia. I don't understand why people prefer this over the Power of the Primes version of the mold. The improvements that were done here are awful. The backpack cannot even be moved to become like a skirt or anything. It's just there and obtrusive and disgusting. I don't like these pieces on the shins because you can't even bend the leg without having to bend that up. The ankle tilt just makes her more flimsy to try and stand up. I don't like this. The waist piece pops off. It's really no better for Nightbird either. I've seen the car parts of Nightbird removed. I haven't done it myself yet. But this isn't good. It's not. The Power of the Primes like original use of the mold, I suppose, before these changes were made was way better. Just goes to show, the more they try to change something to make it better, the worse it usually ends up turning out. Say hello to number 2. No, it's not Punch, Counterpunch from Power of the Primes, though he was on the list last year. I can't remember now exactly where he fell, but for right or wrong, he was on the list last year. I don't know if he was on the list for one of the best or one of the worst now. I don't know. Check out the 2018 countdown, you know? It is what it is. But I have this guy because he represents the story that led to the number 2 worst offering of the year, and that would have to be Ultimate Cyberverse Megatron. No. No. He is not Ultimate. He does not even have elbows. No. It's terrible. That's unexcusable. Don't call something Ultimate when it don't even have elbows. Look at me moving. I'm Ultimate now. No, I'm not. No. He needs elbows. So for that reason alone, he takes number 2 from me. I don't know. Call me picky, man. What about number 1? I think that this one is one that most people are actually going to agree with. And the Trash Fire, that's clocking in at number 1 for worst offering of 2019. Last year, by the way, my number 1 worst offering was actually a Micromaster. It was the Siege Swindler. That thing's awful. But not as bad as this. This is the Studio Series Shatter. This is the car version. This is garbage. Garbage. Poorly done all the way around. Terrible articulation because of all of the kibble on it. A head sculpt that looks nothing like we saw in the film. A conversion where the arms and whatnot like to pop off. Garbage. I've already resolved myself and decided that I'm going to end up having the car version of Dropkick be my robot Dropkick, and I'll take helicopter Dropkick and just put it in helicopter mode. I'm going to put this in car mode and leave it as the car mode, and I'm going to take the plain version of Shatter, and that plain version, even with its egregious backpack, and it does have an egregious backpack, it's going to be my robot version of Shatter. This is garbage. If you skipped it and you've been hunting it down, stop hunting. It ain't worth it, man. Not worth the headache. It's not worth the waste of money. Trust me on this. And there we go. The countdown for 2019 in the books. Best and worst. Best and worst. Of course, you know, it's subjective. It's my own personal experiences with all of these guys and girls, I suppose. I don't know what your list looks like, though. You know I'd love to hear what it looks like. What was your favorite? What was your least favorite from the year? What were your experiences with these offerings in comparison to mine? How did yours differ? For me, the top 2 best had to be Jetfire and Impactor, and the top 2 worst had to be that Ultimate Megatron. I think it's unforgivable that that thing doesn't have elbows. And Shatter, oh, Shatter is so terrible. So terrible. She would be in the running for worst ever, let alone worst of 2019. Anyway, that's it. We've had a bit of fun here. I hope that your holiday season and your new year going into 2020 are fantastic. You know I appreciate you dropping by. Give me some of your extremely valuable time. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, there is a donate link down in the description. Please hit that subscribe button. It helps me out so very much. Don't forget that somehow, some way, each and every day, you do make a difference. And I very much look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams, at the stop motion premieres, or right here, the old-fashioned way, inside the videos.